Every second you waste is a deal you made with failure. You might not feel it now, but the clock is silently cutting away your future. Time is the only thing in life that is constantly slipping through your hands, whether you use it or not. And here's the brutal truth. Someone, somewhere, is using the same 24 hours you have to change their life, while you might be using yours to scroll, complain, or wait for the right moment. There is no right moment. There is only now. And if you don't learn how to spend your time with ruthless precision, you will watch opportunities pass, dreams die, and years disappear, while your potential rots in the shadow of your procrastination. If you truly understood the value of time, you would guard it with your life. You would defend it the same way you defend your home from a thief. Because that's exactly what wasted time is. A theft. It robs you of something that can never be replaced, repaired, or refunded. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose possessions and buy them back. You can lose opportunities and create new ones. But the moment you lose time, it is gone forever. There is no system, no deal, no amount of intelligence, talent, or resources that can rewind your life by even a single second. Every tick of the clock is a piece of your existence disappearing, and yet, most people treat it like it's unlimited. The truth is, time is the great equalizer. The richest billionaire in the world has the same 24 hours you do. The most successful athlete, the greatest thinker, the most impactful leader, none of them get more hours in a day than you. The difference isn't how much time they have, it's how they use it. If you have 24 hours and you waste 12 of them, it doesn't matter how smart you are or how much potential you have. You've already cut your chances of success in half. And yet every day, people throw away their hours like loose change, not realizing they're throwing away their future. Think about this for a moment. If someone stole an hour from your bank account every day, you would call the police. If someone walked into your home and took something that belonged to you, you would fight to get it back. But when distractions, laziness, or meaningless habits steal your hours, you don't fight back. You just hand them over without resistance. And those hours don't just vanish into thin air. They accumulate into lost opportunities, missed goals, and a life that feels smaller than it shills. Time is not just the minutes on a clock. It is life itself, broken down into pieces small enough for you to notice slipping away. Every second you waste is not just time lost. It's life lost. The scariest part is, most people don't realize they've wasted it until it's too late. They reach their 30s, 40s, 50s, and suddenly wonder where the years went. They remember the dreams they had, the plans they made, and realize those dreams are still sitting in the exact same place, because they were too busy killing their time with things that didn't matter. If you want success, you have to stop thinking of time as something you just have, and start thinking of it as something you invest. Because whether you realize it or not, you're investing your time into something every single day. If you spend 3 hours a night watching TV, that's an investment, not in your growth, not in your future, but in your comfort and distraction. If you spend hours scrolling through social media, that's an investment in entertainment and comparison, not in building a skill or a business. If you spend your days doing things just to get through them, you're investing in stagnation. And those investments pay interest, in the form of regret, missed opportunities, and wasted potential. The reason most people never reach their potential is because they are rich in time when they are young, and they spend it recklessly, as if it will never run out. Then, as they get older and realize time is short, they try to save it. But by then, the most valuable years are gone. You have to understand that your time is never just time. It's your energy, your focus, your momentum, your opportunity. When you give your time away, You're giving away the building blocks of your life. And you don't get to rebuild from scratch. You have to work with what's left. Every great achievement in history was built on the careful, intentional use of time. Every successful entrepreneur, every groundbreaking scientist, every legendary athlete, they didn't just stumble into success. They didn't just wake up one day and find themselves on top. They made conscious choices about how to use their hours. They treated time like a tool, not a toy. They understood that wasted hours turn into wasted years, and wasted years turn into wasted lives. There's a dangerous mindset that tells you, I'll do it later. I'll start when I'm ready. I'll work on it tomorrow. But here's the harsh reality. There is no later. There is only now. Later is a lie your mind tells you so you can feel comfortable staying the same. Tomorrow doesn't exist yet. The only time you can control, the only time you can shape, the only time you can use is the moment in front of you. If you waste it, it's gone. If you use it well, it becomes the foundation for everything you want. Think about the people you admire. The ones who have built something incredible with their lives. Do you think they just found the time? No. They made the time. They cut out the distractions. They said no to things that didn't serve their purpose. They woke up earlier, stayed up later, and worked when others rested. They treated time like a weapon and used it to carve out the life they wanted. That's the difference between people who succeed and people who don't. We live in a world that is designed to steal your time. Social media companies want your attention. Streaming platforms want your hours. Advertisers want your focus, and even the people around you, often without realizing it, will pull you into their distractions. If you don't take control of your time, someone else will, and they will spend it on things that benefit them, not you. The moment you start treating your time as priceless, you start making different decisions. You stop wasting your evenings on mindless scrolling and start using them to learn, to create, to connect with people who inspire you. You stop hanging out with people who drain your energy and start surrounding yourself with those who challenge you. You stop saying yes to every invitation, every demand, every request, and start protecting your hours like your future depends on it, because it does. You cannot buy more time. You cannot trade for it. You cannot negotiate for an extension. You only get what you get. And here's the truth most people ignore. You don't know how much you have left. You might have 50 years, or you might have 5. You might have decades to chase your dreams, or you might have months. That uncertainty is not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up, to push you to stop living like time is unlimited, and start living like every hour matters. When you understand the value of time, you start to see the world differently. You stop getting caught in petty arguments because you realize they are stealing moments you could be using to grow. You stop holding grudges because you know they are taking mental space you could use for building your future. You stop waiting for the right time to start something because you realize the right time is now, and every second you hesitate is another second gone forever. The truth is, every one of us is given the same amount of time each day. The difference is not the number of hours we get, but the value we extract from those hours. Some people spend their time building skills, building relationships, building businesses, building health, and others spend it in endless cycles of distraction and consumption. The ones who succeed are the ones who understand that how you spend your hours determines how you spend your life. If you start thinking of your time like money, you will start spending it differently. If you had 24 to spend every day and you couldn't save it, you would make sure every dollar went towards something valuable. But with time, you do the opposite. You give it away without thought. The clock gives you 24 hours every day, and you spend them like you'll have an endless supply. But one day you won't, and you won't know when that day is until it's too late. Time doesn't just shape your future. It shapes you. How you spend your time changes who you become. If you spend your days learning, working, building, you become someone capable of creating more value, more impact, more success. If you spend your days in distraction, you become someone who is always chasing comfort and avoiding challenge. Your habits are not just what you do. They are what you become. And your habits are built in the way you spend your hours. That's why you cannot afford to be careless with your time. You cannot afford to let days pass without doing something that moves you closer to your goals. You cannot afford to give away your hours to things that don't matter. Because the truth is, the way you spend your time today is building the life you will live tomorrow. If you waste it, you will pay the price. If you use it wisely, you will reap the rewards. Most people think wasting time only costs them the minutes they lose, but the real price is far greater than they imagine. You don't just lose an hour. You lose the chain reaction that hour could have started. You lose the momentum that could have carried you into a better week, a better month, a better year. Time doesn't work in isolated moments, it works in patterns. The way you spend one day shapes the next. One wasted afternoon can pull you into a cycle of wasted days, and one wasted year can make it harder to rebuild than you ever expected. The problem is that wasted time rarely feels dangerous in the moment. When you put off a task for a day, it doesn't feel like much. When you scroll for an extra hour at night, you tell yourself you'll make it up tomorrow. But you're teaching yourself that your time is negotiable, that your plans can be delayed, that your goals can wait, and once you give yourself permission to waste time, it becomes easier and easier to do it again. That's how dreams die, not with a big dramatic failure, but with thousands of small choices to let another hour slip away. What you have to understand is that time compounds, just like money. If you invest it wisely, the results multiply. 1 hour of learning today doesn't just give you knowledge for that hour. It builds skills you can use for decades. 1 hour of focused work doesn't just move a project forward. It sets you up for progress tomorrow. And 1 hour of deep rest doesn't just make you feel good now. It fuels your energy for the days ahead. But the same principle works in reverse. An hour wasted doesn't just disappear. It compounds into missed opportunities, weakened habits, and delayed progress. Imagine you have two people starting with the exact same abilities, resources, and goals. One spends an extra hour every day working on their craft, learning something new, or building a skill. The other spends that hour scrolling through their phone, playing games, or watching meaningless videos. After 1 week, the difference between them is small. After a month, it's noticeable. After a year, they're living in completely different worlds. The first person has put in 365 extra hours of progress, the equivalent of over 9 full work weeks. The second person has nothing to show for that same time. That's the hidden cost. The gap you can't see until it's too late to close. And here's the part most people overlook. Wasted time affects more than just your schedule. It changes your identity. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, you reinforce the habit of avoidance. You teach your brain that instant gratification is more valuable than long-term achievement. You start to see yourself as someone who just can't stay consistent, or always gets distracted, and that identity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. On the other hand, every time you choose to use your time intentionally, you strengthen the habit of commitment. You prove to yourself that you can follow through, and that identity builds momentum that makes it easier to stay consistent in the future. You have to start seeing wasted time for what it really is: a slow, invisible theft. It doesn't rob you all at once, which is why it's so dangerous. If someone tried to steal a year of your life in a single day, you'd fight with everything you had to protect it. But when that year is stolen in small, unnoticeable pieces, 5 minutes here, an hour there, you don't feel the loss until the damage is done. That's why you have to stay vigilant. You have to guard your hours as if they are treasures that can be stolen at any moment. Because that's exactly what they are. Another hidden cost of wasting time is the opportunities you never see. When you use your hours well, you put yourself in the path of new possibility. You're in the right place at the right time because you were doing the work that put you there. But when you waste time, you're not ready when those opportunities appear. You're not in the room when the decision is made. You're not the person people think of when they need someone who can deliver results. And the worst part is, you often don't even know what you missed. The opportunity passes without you realizing it was ever there. The way you spend your hours also affects the kind of people you attract into your life. People who value growth and ambition are drawn to those who use their time wisely. People who waste time attract others who waste time, and when your circle is made up of people who don't respect their hours, it becomes normal to lose yours. You start to think it's fine to let days slip by without progress, because everyone around you is doing the same. But if you surround yourself with people who value every minute, you start to feel the urgency to match their pace. You don't want to be the one holding the group back. Every hour you waste is an hour someone else is using to get ahead. That's the competition you're in. Not against the world, but against the people who are using their time better than you. And if that thought makes you uncomfortable, it should. Because while you're debating whether to start, someone else is already working. While you're saying, "I'll do it tomorrow," someone else is doing it now. And when you finally decide to take it seriously, they will be years ahead. There's also an emotional cost to wasting time, and it's heavier than most people admit. When you know you've wasted a day, you feel it in your chest. There's a quiet guilt that lingers in the background. You tell yourself it's fine, but deep down, you know you're capable of more. And that guilt doesn't just sit there. It eats at your confidence. It makes you question whether you're really disciplined enough to reach your goals. It makes you avoid big challenges because you've trained yourself to take the easy path. And over time, it convinces you that maybe you were never meant to succeed in the first place. On the flip side, there's a deep satisfaction that comes from using your time well. When you end the day knowing you gave your best effort, there's a sense of pride that fuels you to keep going. You sleep better, you wake up with more energy, and you start building a cycle of momentum that pushes you further each day. That's the reward of respecting your hours. You don't just make prowess, you become the kind of person who expects progress from themselves. The real tragedy is that most people only realize the cost of wasted time when they run out of it. They hit a crisis point, losing a job, failing at a major goal, reaching a certain age, and suddenly see all the days they let slip by. They start wishing they could back, but there's no rewind button. The only choice they have left is to work with what remains. And while it's never too late to start, the earlier you respect your time, the more life you have to shape into something extraordinary. This is why you have to start now. Not when it's convenient, not when you feel ready, not when the stars align. Now, every day you wait is another day you're training yourself to wait. And if you're not careful, waiting will become the story of your life. You'll become someone who always planned to do something great, but never did. Not because you couldn't, but because you didn't respect the hours you had. Your life is made up of days, and your days are made up of hours. If you want a better life, you have to start by making better choices with your hours. That's the smallest unit of change you control. You can't instantly transform your life in a single leap, but you can transform an hour. You can take one block of time and turn it into something meaningful. And when you do that enough times, those hours stack into days, the days stack into months, and the months stack into a life you're proud of. This is why small changes in how you spend your time have massive results over the long term. If you replace 1 hour of distraction a day with focused work, you gain 365 extra hours a year. That's over 9 work weeks of additional progress without touching the rest of your schedule. If you replace 30 minutes of mindless scrolling with 30 minutes of reading, you can read more than 20 books a year without changing anything else. The numbers might seem small in the moment, but over time, they're life-changing. The trap is that you won't feel the damage of wasted time immediately, so it's easy to ignore. If you eat badly for a day, you don't gain 20 pounds overnight. If you skip the gym for a week, you don't lose all your strength, but give it enough time, and the results are unavoidable. Wasting time works the same way. The damage is slow, quiet, and almost invisible at first, but it's always accumulating. That's why the most dangerous habit you can have is the habit of thinking it's just a little time. If you start seeing each hour as a choice, a vote for the future you want or the one you don't, you'll begin to act differently. You'll feel the weight of your decisions in a way that makes you take them seriously. And once you do that, the small things that used to steal your hours will lose their power over you. The most powerful truth about time is that it behaves just like money when it's invested. It compounds. But unlike money, you can't borrow more of it. You can't store it for later, and you can't get it back once it's gone. Every hour you spend is an investment, whether you mean it to be or not. The question is whether you're investing in something that grows or something that decays. The law of compound time means that what you do with your hours today will echo into your future far more than you realize. It means that small, consistent actions repeated day after day can create results so massive they seem impossible to people who only look for instant payoffs. Think about the way compound interest works in finance. You put a little bit into an account every day, and at first, the growth is almost invisible, but as time goes on, the interest builds on top of the original deposit. Then the interest itself earns interest, and the growth accelerates. What started as a few small deposits turns into a fortune simply because you kept adding to it and didn't take it out. Your time works the same way. The first few days of practicing a skill might not seem to matter. The early mornings of study might feel like they're changing nothing. The hours you spend working on a project might feel like drops in an ocean. But keep doing it, and you reach a point where the results don't just add up, they multiply. The tragedy is that most people up before the compounding kicks in. They work hard for a week or a month, and because they don't see massive results right away, they assume it isn't working. They don't understand that the biggest rewards from time invested show up far down the road, and that most of the visible success you see in others is just the tip of an iceberg that was built over years of invisible effort. They stop too soon, and in doing so, they waste not just the hours they already put in, but all the growth those hours could have created if they had kept going. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to succeed with ease while others struggle endlessly, the answer often lies in their relationship with this law. The ones who succeed understand that time is their most valuable capital, and that the earlier and more consistently they invest it, the bigger their returns will be. They don't waste energy chasing shortcuts that vanish as quickly as they appear. They focus on the daily deposits, the unglamorous habits, the disciplined choices that might not pay off today, but will be impossible to ignore in the years to come. This law also works in reverse. Just as good habits compound into extraordinary results, bad habits compound into extraordinary damage. A little wasted time here, a little neglected responsibility there. It doesn't seem like much. But just as interest builds on itself, so does neglect. If you avoid learning a skill because it's uncomfortable, that gap in your ability compounds over time, making it harder to compete in the future. If you keep putting off small tasks, the backlog grows until it becomes overwhelming. If you choose short-term comfort over long-term growth enough times, you end up in a life you never wanted, not because of one big mistake, but because of thousands of tiny ones that multiplied when you weren't looking. This is why people underestimate the value of an hour. They see it as a small thing, but in truth, it's the building block of every great achievement. If you want to master a language, you don't need to study for 10 hours in one day. You need to study for 1 hour every day for years. If you want to get in shape, you don't need to train like an athlete for a week. You need to move your body daily, eat well daily, and keep going until it becomes part of who you are. If you want to build a successful business, you don't need a massive breakthrough tomorrow. You need to make steady progress, solve problems one by one, and stay consistent long enough for the compounding to take over. Here's what makes the law of compound time so powerful. It doesn't require you to be extraordinary in any single day. It requires you to be consistent across many days. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep showing up. Missing one day won't destroy your progress, but breaking your pattern repeatedly will, because compounding relies on continuity, not intensity. A small, steady effort beats a massive burst followed by long periods of nothing. You can see this principle in nature. A tree doesn't grow 50 feet overnight. It grows little by little every single day, and yet, if you looked at it once a month for years, the growth would look explosive. Rivers carve valleys not by a single rush of water, but by persistent flow over centuries. The strongest structures in the world are built layer by layer, and each layer, no matter how small, is necessary for the whole to stand. Your life works the same way. Every day you invest your time in the right things, you're laying down another layer of strength, skill, and opportunity. One of the most dangerous lies you can believe is that you'll start using your time wisely when life gives you more free hours. The truth is, if you can't use 1 free hour today, you won't use 10 free hours tomorrow. Time management is not about the amount of time you have, it's about the habits you apply to the time you get. The law of compound time rewards those who start where they are, with what they have, and build from there. The earlier you start, the greater the advantage you give yourself, because every day you delay is a day you lose forever. Think about skill development. If you start practicing a skill today for just 30 minutes a day, after a year, you'll have logged over 180 hours of focused practice. That's more than many people put into a hobby in their lifetime. And if you keep going for 5 years, you'll be among the most experienced people in that field. Not because you had some rare talent, but because you understood and applied the law of compound time. The same applies to relationships, health, finances, and personal growth. Consistency, even in small amounts, makes you unstoppable over time. The challenge is that compounding feels slow in the beginning. You might work out for a month and see no dramatic change in the mirror. You might read for weeks and still feel like a beginner in your field. You might write every day for a year and still not have the audience you dream of. This is where most people quit, thinking the effort isn't worth it. But the ones who push through this slow phase eventually reach a point where their results take off. and from the outside, it looks like they achieved overnight success. What nobody sees is the years of patient, disciplined time investment that built the foundation for that breakthrough. If you've ever envied someone else's achievements, remind yourself that you're seeing the harvest of seeds they planted long ago. The career they have now is the result of years of learning and working when nobody was watching. The physical health they enjoy today was built through thousands of small, often invisible choices about food, exercise, and rest. The confidence they carry is the result of countless hours of showing up, failing, and trying again. They aren't lucky, they're consistent. And you have the same opportunity if you're willing to honor the same law. One way to apply this principle in your own life is to think in terms of daily deposits. Every day ask yourself, what small action can I take today that will matter in 5 years? The answer might be cleansing a skill for 20 minutes, reaching out to one person you admire, or setting aside a small amount of money. On its own, the action might feel insignificant, but over years, those actions become the defining factors of your success, because compound time doesn't care how small the seed is. It only cares whether you plant it and let it grow. This also means you have to guard against the small withdrawals that kill momentum. Skipping one day of progress now, and then isn't the end of the world, but turning one skipped day into a week or a month is how you erase the benefits of compounding. Every time you skip without getting back on track, you break the chain, and the momentum you've built has to start over. Protect your chain. Protect your rhythm, because the law of compound time will work for you or against you depending on whether you maintain that flow. And there's something else. Compounding isn't just about skill or productivity, it's about mindset. The way you think compounds too. If you spend your time feeding your mind with positive, challenging, growth-oriented ideas, your thinking will evolve in powerful ways over the years. But if you feed your mind with negativity, distractions, and excuses, those will compound as well, making it harder to break free the longer you let them grow. This is why the people you spend time with matter so much. Their habits, attitudes, and beliefs rub off on you, and over time, that influence compounds into the person you become. Once you truly grasp the law of compound time, you stop looking for instant results and start looking for sustainable habits. You stop asking, what can I achieve this week? And start asking, what can I build over the next 10 years if I start now? That shift changes everything. It makes you patient, but not passive. It makes you consistent, but not complacent. It makes you value your time in a way that most people never will. And that difference will set you apart in every area of life. Every person on this planet is given the same 24 hours in a day, yet the outcomes we achieve with those hours vary dramatically. The difference is not just in how hard we work, but in how much of that time actually moves us forward instead of slipping away unnoticed. A time leak is any place in your life where minutes, hours, or even days disappear without producing value, growth, or progress. It's not always obvious. Some leaks are so subtle they hide under the disguise of necessary activities. Others are so habitual you stop noticing them entirely. Yet these leaks silently drain your potential, leaving you exhausted but unaccomplished, busy but unproductive, active but stagnant. If you've ever reached the end of a day wondering where your time went, you've experienced they're like small cracks in a water tank. One crack won't empty the tank instantly, but over time, the constant drip will leave it dry, no matter how much water you keep pouring in. In the same way, you can work incredibly hard, but if your days are full of small drips of wasted time, the end result will still be a lack of progress. Success requires not just adding productive hours, but stopping the silent drain that erodes them. The first challenge in eliminating time leaks is awareness. Most people underestimate how much time they lose to distractions, inefficient habits, or misplaced priorities because they don't measure it. If you were to track your day minute by minute for a week, you'd likely be shocked at the patterns that emerge. 10 minutes checking your phone here, 15 minutes lost to an unnecessary meeting there, half an hour wandering between tasks because you didn't have a plan. These moments add up. Over the course of a year, they can amount to hundreds of hours of opportunity lost. And here's the painful truth: those hours never come back. You can earn more money, rebuild a career, even regain health, but you cannot relive a wasted hour. Time leaks take many forms, and not all of them are obvious villains. Some wear the mask of productivity. For instance, answering every email the moment it arrives feels responsible, but it often shatters your focus and wastes the deep work momentum you could have used on tasks that truly matter. Constantly attending meetings might look like dedication, but if those meetings have no clear agenda or decision-making outcome, they're simply ceremonial time drains. Multitasking might feel efficient, but research shows it actually slows you down and reduces the quality of your work. These are the respectable leaks, the ones that make you look busy while silently stealing your results. Then there are the obvious leaks, the ones you already know are costing you, but perhaps haven't had the discipline to address. Endless scrolling on social media, binge, watching shows out of habit rather than intention, saying yes to commitments you don't actually care about, engaging in gossip or petty arguments. These are the gaping holes in the bucket of your day. They often come disguised as harmless breaks or just a few minutes. But they thrive on one weakness: our inability to notice how much time they consume in total. 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, repeated daily, is enough to rob you of the time needed to learn a skill, build a side business, get in shape, or connect with someone who matters to you. The human mind is not naturally wired to guard against time leaks, because we tend to value the urgent over the important. Our brains evolved in environments where reacting instantly to immediate stimuli was necessary for survival. In modern life, that same instinct makes us check our phones at every notification, respond to every email without prioritizing, and constantly shift between low-value tasks just because they demand our attention right now. This is why time leaks often happen without conscious choice. We drift into them. They require no deliberate decision, just a failure to resist the pull of the immediate. To seal these leaks, you need to become intentional about every minute you spend. That doesn't mean living like a robot with a perfectly timed schedule every day. It means being fully aware of what you're trading your time for, and whether the trade is worth it. One of the most effective ways to do this is through ruthless auditing. For a full week, write down exactly how you spend your day. Be honest, even if it's uncomfortable. Don't write "work on project" if you spent part of that time checking the. Don't write "relax" if you spent the whole time mindlessly scrolling instead of genuinely recharging. The goal is not to judge yourself harshly, but to see the truth without filters. Once you see where your hours actually go, you can start pluging the leaks. Some will be easy to eliminate. You simply stop doing them or reduce them sharply. Others will require structural changes in your environment. For example, if you lose hours every day to social media, you can delete certain apps from your phone, block distracting sites during work hours, or set strict daily limits. If unnecessary meetings waste your time, you can insist on agendas, delegate attendance to someone else, or even decline them entirely if your presence isn't essential. If interruptions at work or home keep breaking your flow, you can set boundaries. Specific: do not disturb hours, a closed office door, or clear communication about when you're available. One of the most underestimated sources of time leaks is indecision. Every time you delay making a decision, you leave an open loop in your mind, and that loop keeps draining mental energy. You revisit the same question repeatedly instead of resolving it and moving on. Over days and weeks, those revisits steal more time than making the decision would have in the first place. Decisiveness is a time-saving skill. It doesn't mean rushing into bad choices. It means gathering enough information to make a solid call, then committing so you can free up your time and focus for the next priority. Another leak that destroys productivity is starting tasks without finishing them. Unfinished work lingers in your mental space like clutter in a room. You might think you'll come back to it later, but until it's done, it occupies attention and energy. This is why batching tasks is so effective. Instead of doing a little bit of everything all day and leaving multiple tasks half done, group similar tasks together and finish them before moving on. Complete the emails in one block, make all the phone calls in one block, handle all paperwork in one block. Closing loops as you go stops the leaks caused by constant mental switching. Even your relationships can be a source of time leaks. Some people in your life will consistently demand your attention without contributing value, growth, or positivity in return. They may pull you into drama, distractions, or unproductive conversations that leave you drained. It's not about cutting people off coldly, but about setting boundaries and being selective about how much of your time and emotional energy you invest. Remember that every hour you spend is an hour you're not spending on something else. You can't give it to everyone without taking it from yourself. There's also a hidden category of leaks, the mental kind. Overthinking, replaying past mistakes, worrying about problems you can't control, or obsessing over what others think of you can eat up enormous chunks of your life without producing any action or solution. It's possible to lose years this way. Being physically present but mentally stuck in a loop. The way to seal these mental leaks is to train your mind to focus on what you can control and to take action instead of spiraling in thought. When your mind starts to drift into rumination, bring it back to a task that moves you forward. When you remove leaks, something remarkable happens. You don't just get more hours in your day, you get more quality in those hours. Your focus deepens. Your energy lasts longer. Your progress accelerates because every minute is now working for you instead of against you. This is the point where people start to notice a shift in your life and wonder how you find the time for so much. The truth is, you didn't find more time. You stopped losing it. It's important to understand that eliminating time leaks isn't about cutting all leisure or pleasure from your life. In fact, intentional leisure, time spent on activities that genuinely refresh you, inspire you, or connect you to others, is an essential part of high performance. The difference is that intentional leisure is chosen and valued, not slipped into by accident. Watching a movie you've been looking forward to with people you care about is intentional. Mindlessly watching whatever happens to autoplay next because you couldn't decide what else to do is a leak. The former adds to your life, the latter drains from it. In a world designed to steal your attention, protecting your time is an act of strength. Every app, platform, and advertisement is engineered to hold your eyes and keep you scrolling because your attention is their profit. That means if you don't actively defend your time, someone else will gladly take it from you. Every leak you leave unsealed is an open door for someone else's agenda to enter and replace your own. This is why eliminating time leaks is not just a matter of productivity. It's a matter of living your own life instead of becoming a passive participant in someone else's plan. The discipline to do this doesn't come overnight. At first, you'll catch leaks after they've already happened. You'll realize you've lost an hour before you notice the pattern. But over time, your awareness sharpens. You start catching yourself mid-leak. You pause before opening a distracting app. You question whether a meeting is worth attending. You stop saying yes to things you know you'll regret later, and eventually, you seal so many leaks that your time becomes like a full tank with no cracks. Every drop of energy you put in stays, and you can direct it entirely toward what matters most. There is a rhythm to achievement that only reveals itself to those who commit to mastering their own momentum. It's not about bursts of effort followed by long stretches of idleness. It's about sustained, deliberate movement forward, day after day, in a way that compounds into something extraordinary over time. Most people underestimate the power of consistency because they're looking for dramatic leaps, not subtle shifts. They measure progress in giant milestones rather than in the invisible micro-movements that. Yet if you trace the story of anyone who has reached greatness, you will see a steady pattern. An ability to keep showing up, to keep refining, even when the results are not yet visible. The human mind is wired to crave quick rewards. We feel accomplished when we can see instant proof that our efforts matter. That's why so many start with passion, but fade when the novelty wears off. But life does not hand its deepest rewards to the impatient. The ones who rise are those who understand that a field doesn't yield a harvest the day after planting seeds. It must be tended, watered, and guarded from weeds long before any green shoots appear. This patience is not passive, it's active. You are not waiting for success to find you, you are building the conditions that make it inevitable. Momentum is the hidden engine of this process. When you allow yourself to start and stop repeatedly, you pay the heavy price of lost momentum. Every restart is harder, because you have to fight the friction of inertia all over again. But when you maintain a steady pace, the energy you invested yesterday pushes you further today. Your habits become easier because they no longer require as much conscious effort. You move from discipline into instinct, from willpower into automatic behavior. The same way a rolling ball keeps moving without constant pushing, your life starts to carry you forward once the right momentum is in place. The trap that kills momentum most often is distraction disguised as opportunity. The world is full of tempting detours, new projects, new ideas, new offers that seem exciting but pull you away from the core work that would have brought you true results. Momentum thrives on focus. It is not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things without scattering your energy so thin that nothing gets finished. The discipline to say no to good opportunities in order to preserve your best opportunities is one of the rarest skills in any field, yet it is precisely what keeps momentum unbroken. People often think they lose momentum because of laziness, but more often it's because they don't recognize the cost of small interruptions. Taking a break to just check something, switching tasks every time you feel stuck, pausing your workout routine for a few weeks, skipping your writing for a few days. These small breaks seem harmless in the moment, but they disrupt the chain of consistency that momentum depends on. Once the chain breaks, you must use far more effort to restart than you would have used to simply keep going. That's why a single missed day can turn into weeks of delay, because inertia regains its grip on you the moment momentum slips away. To sustain momentum, you have to build systems that make it easier to keep going than to stop. This could mean structuring your environment so the path of least resistance leads to your desired action. If you want to write daily, keep your writing tools open and ready where you can see them. If you want to train regularly, keep your workout clothes in sight and your schedule set. Reduce the number of decisions between you and the action. Every decision you remove lowers the chance of friction slowing you down. Momentum doesn't only come from discipline, it comes from designing life in a way that naturally supports forward movement. One of the greatest threats to momentum is perfectionism. It convinces you that it's better to pause until you can do something flawlessly, but this pause often stretches into paralysis. Progress thrives on imperfect action repeated consistently. You cannot refine what you have not yet produced. The first version of anything is allowed to be messy as long as it exists. The more you move, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more you can improve. Waiting for perfect conditions is just another way of saying you're willing to surrender your momentum in exchange for the illusion of control. Another subtle force that destroys momentum is emotional turbulence. Life will test you with setbacks, failures, and moments of doubt. In these moments, momentum can become your lifeline. The habit of moving forward, even when you don't feel like. The irony is that the days you least want to act are often the days when acting matters most, because it reinforces the identity you're building. Every time you show up despite resistance, you're telling yourself, "This is who I am. I keep going." Over time, that identity becomes unshakable and your momentum becomes less fragile. It's important to remember that momentum is not speed. Moving faster doesn't always mean you're moving forward effectively. If you sprint in the wrong direction, you just get lost sooner. True momentum is aligned with your goals and guided by clarity. It's the combination of direction and persistence. This is why planning is essential. Without a clear plan, you may waste your momentum on tasks that keep you busy but not on track. The best momentum is purposeful, where every step builds on the last and brings you closer to where you intend to go. The compound effect of momentum is one of the most powerful forces in human achievement. At first, progress feels slow because the returns are small, but as you keep moving, those returns multiply. Skills sharpen, opportunities grow, and results start to accelerate. This is why many people describe success as happening all of a sudden, after years of obscurity, because the tipping point is invisible until it's reached. Momentum pushes you past that point, and then progress seems to explode. The overnight success is really just the visible part of a much longer, invisible climb. Sustaining momentum also means managing your energy. You cannot move forward relentlessly if you constantly run yourself into exhaustion. High performers understand the balance between work and recovery. They know when to push and when to recharge, but their recovery is intentional, not aimless. Rest is not an escape from the work, it is a part of the work. Proper rest sharpens focus, renews creativity, and prevents burnout, all of which keep momentum alive. Think of it like a professional athlete's training cycle. The rest days are just as crucial as the intense training days because they make the next push possible. The company you keep plays a significant role in maintaining momentum. Surround yourself with people who are moving forward in their own lives, and their energy will pull you with them. Being around stagnant or negative individuals is like trying to run into the wind. Every step feels heavier. Find peers who challenge you, mentors who guide you, and environments that inspire you. Momentum is contagious, so is stagnation. Choose your influences carefully because they will either accelerate your movement or slow it down. Self-reflection is another tool for preserving momentum. It's not enough to keep moving. You must occasionally pause to ensure you're still on the right course. This doesn't mean halting your actions. It means building in moments to evaluate your progress, adjust your strategy, and correct your direction if necessary. Reflection without action leads to daydreaming, but action without reflection can lead to wasted. The combination of both keeps your momentum aligned and meaningful. Fear often disguises itself as caution and interrupts momentum. You may tell yourself you're being careful, but in truth, you're hesitating because you're afraid of failing, afraid of judgment, or afraid of the unknown. Momentum thrives when you act despite fear, because every step forward reduces its power. Action turns uncertainty into clarity. Every time you move, you discover something new. Either you succeed and gain confidence, or you fail and gain wisdom. Both outcomes fuel the next step, as long as you keep going. The beauty of momentum is that it builds identity. Every time you show up, you're proving to yourself that you are the kind of person who follows through. This self-image becomes a source of strength when challenges arise. You stop relying solely on motivation, which is fleeting, and start relying on identity, which is enduring. You act because it's who you are, not because you feel like it. And when that shift happens, momentum becomes nearly unstoppable. There will always be days when progress feels invisible. The temptation will be to question whether your efforts matter. This is the most critical point to keep moving, because unseen progress is still progress. Roots grow underground before the plant emerges above the soil. Muscles strengthen during rest, not during the workout itself. Skill mastery happens in layers that only become visible over time. Trust the process enough to keep adding to it, even when the results are not yet obvious. Momentum is also protected by simplicity. Complexity breeds hesitation. The more elaborate your plan, the more opportunities for friction and excuses. The most powerful systems are often the simplest: a set routine, a small daily target, a clear next step. Simplicity keeps you moving because it removes the need to figure out what to do next. When the next step is obvious, momentum has a clear path forward. One of the great rewards of sustained momentum is that it changes your relationship with effort. What once felt hard becomes easier, and what once felt impossible becomes achievable. You start to realize that the real breakthrough was not in a single event, but in the consistent discipline that made that event possible. Every great achievement is built on a foundation of ordinary days done well. The extraordinary grows out of the ordinary, magnified by the force of momentum. The truth is, you don't need to move perfectly to keep momentum. You just need to keep moving. Small steps still count. Progress is not erased by imperfect execution, it's erased by stopping altogether. The habit of continuing, even at a reduced pace, keeps the engine running until you're ready to accelerate again. This is why the most successful people in any field are rarely the ones who never stumble. They are the ones who never quit for long enough to lose the rhythm they've built. There is a certain truth about life that only becomes clear when you start looking at challenges not as barriers, but as invitations. Every obstacle you face is a disguised question. How badly do you want this? Most people misinterpret difficulties as signs they're on the wrong path, when in reality they are often confirmation they're exactly where they need to be. Growth never announces itself with comfort. It knocks on your door carrying discomfort, uncertainty, and the kind of pressure that forces you to either break or build yourself stronger. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck is not the size of the obstacle, but the way they choose to interpret it. Challenges have a strange way of revealing our inner resources. When everything is going smoothly, you rely on your existing skills, your known strengths, your familiar patterns. But when the road becomes rough, you are forced to dig deeper, to access parts of yourself that you might never have discovered otherwise. This is why adversity, though painful, is often the birthplace of greatness. You learn resilience not by reading about it, but by living through situations where giving up feels easier than moving forward. You learn adaptability not by discussing it in theory, but by being placed in a situation where your original plan no longer works, and you must create a new one on the spot. Every breakthrough carries with it a moment when you could have walked away. It's in that moment, the one when doubt is loud and evidence is scarce, that your decision shapes the future. Most people turn back too soon, mistaking temporary resistance for permanent impossibility. They forget that the process of transformation requires pressure, much like coal needs intense heat to become a diamond. Without that heat, the coal remains just coal. Without challenge, you remain at the same level you've always been. The human spirit is far more capable than it often realizes, but capability is unlocked only through use. Think of muscles. They grow only when they are challenged beyond their current capacity. Life works in the same way. If you only take on what you already know you can handle, you never grow beyond who you already are. The most inspiring achievements in history were not born out of perfect conditions, but out of people refusing to let adversity dictate their limits. They decided that circumstances would not have the final say. But facing challenges is not just about grit, it's about strategy. A storm will topple a rigid tree, but a tree that bends with the wind survives. Flexibility in approach is as important as strength in resolve. Sometimes, you don't have to break through an obstacle head on. You can move around it, adjust your angle, or change the timing. Persistence doesn't mean stubbornly repeating the same failed method. It means holding on to the goal while being willing to shift the path to get there. There's also a deeper truth about challenges. They have the power to clarify what matters most to you. When you are tested, the unnecessary falls away. Distractions lose their appeal. You stop entertaining half-hearted pursuits and start concentrating your energy on what you truly care about. Adversity acts like a fire that burns away the excess, leaving only the core of your purpose. This clarity can be one of the greatest gifts you ever receive from a difficult season. Yet, too many people spend their lives avoiding discomfort, trying to engineer paths with no friction. The irony is that the more you avoid discomfort, the weaker you become in the face of it. By seeking only ease, you make yourself more fragile, more dependent on circumstances being perfect in order for you to fund. True strength is built by stepping willingly into situations that stretch you. Not recklessly, but intentionally, like an athlete pushing just beyond their limits to grow stronger. It's important to understand that not all challenges arrive with warning. Some come suddenly, disrupting the stability you thought you had. These moments can feel unfair, especially when you didn't choose them. But even unchosen challenges can become platforms for growth if you decide to engage with them instead of running from them. Life is unpredictable, and part of mastery is preparing yourself mentally for the reality that change and difficulty are inevitable. When you accept this, you stop being shocked by it and start being ready for it. One of the most powerful ways to approach challenges is to ask different questions. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" Try, "What is this trying to teach me?" Instead of, "When will this be over?" Try, "How can I grow through this?" These shifts in questioning transform your relationship with the problem. You move from victimhood to ownership. You stop waiting for external rescue and start looking for internal resources. And when you operate from this place, you not only overcome the current obstacle, you develop skills and perspectives that will help you overcome future ones faster. A major reason people give up in the face of challenges is that they expect the path to be linear. They believe that consistent effort should produce consistent results, and when it doesn't, they feel betrayed by the process. But progress is rarely a straight line. It often looks like nothing is happening for a long time, followed by sudden leaps forward. The effort you put in during the quiet phases is not wasted. It is building unseen foundations that will support the visible results later. The ability to trust this unseen progress is a defining trait of those who succeed in the long run. There is also the matter of perception. Two people can face the exact same challenge, yet one sees it as a wall and the other sees it as a ladder. This difference in perspective changes everything about how they act, how they feel, and how likely they are to keep going. Perception is shaped by mindset, and mindset can be trained. You can train yourself to see setbacks as setups for growth, to see resistance as a sign of relevance, and to see difficulty as the training ground for mastery. The process of overcoming challenges also teaches you something vital about resourcefulness. Often, we overestimate the importance of having perfect resources and underestimate the importance of creative use of the resources we already have. History is full of stories of individuals who did more with less because they refused to let limitations become excuses. They learned to work with what was available, and in doing so, they developed innovation, adaptability, and resilience. Qualities that later allowed them to thrive even when they had more resources. There will be moments when the challenge you face is not external but internal. Self-doubt, fear of failure, lack of confidence. These are battles fought in silence, often without anyone else knowing. And yet, these internal battles can be harder to win than the external ones. The voice in your head that tells you to give up, that you're not enough, that the odds are against you. This is often the most dangerous opponent you will ever face. Winning this battle requires intentional work on your self-belief. It means feeding your mind with truths that strengthen you rather than lies that weaken you. It means surrounding yourself with people and environments that reinforce possibility instead of limitation. Another critical element is patience. Challenges have a way of dragging out longer than we expect, and without patience, even the strongest start to fray at the edges. Patience is not passive waiting, it is active endurance. It is holding steady in your effort while time tests your commitment. The lack of visible results can make you doubt whether your work matters, but patience reminds you that time is often the final ingredient in any worthwhile transformation. When you commit to facing challenges instead of avoiding them, something remarkable happens. Your capacity expands. What once seemed overwhelming becomes manageable. Situations that used to intimidate you become opportunities you approach with calm confidence. You stop fearing challenges and start seeking them, not because you enjoy struggle for its own sake, but because you understand that every challenge overcome increases your power to create the life you want. And there is an unexpected beauty in realizing that your current challenge will one day be someone else's inspiration. The struggle you're navigating now will become a story that gives someone else hope when they are in the middle of their own difficulty. You will be able to say, with authority, "I know it feels impossible right now, but I've been there, and you can make it through." Your pain can become part of someone else's path to strength. This is one of the highest uses of your own hardship, to turn it into fuel for others. The more you lean into this way of thinking, the less you fear the next challenge. You begin to carry yourself differently, because you know you have faced storms before, and you are still standing. That confidence is not arrogance, it's grounded in evidence. You have proved to yourself that you can endure, adapt, and prevail, and with each proof, your mind becomes more willing to take on the next level of difficulty, knowing it will only make you stronger. There is a quiet but powerful truth about success that many people overlook. It is not achieved in a burst of grand action, but in the steady, consistent application of small habits over time. While dramatic moments can be inspiring, they are rarely the foundation of lasting change. It is what you do repeatedly, not occasionally, that shapes your life. The hours you spend in private, the choices you make when no one is watching, the discipline you maintain on the days you feel uninspired. These are the real architects of your future. Consistency is the bridge between intention and achievement. Anyone can set a goal and most people do, often with genuine excitement at the start. But the reason so many never see their goals fulfilled is that they mistake enthusiasm for endurance. Enthusiasm gets you moving, endurance keeps you, and endurance is built on the daily decision to keep showing up, even when the conditions are far from perfect. The truth is, the path to success will never feel convenient all the way through. There will be days when your mood, energy, or circumstances make it tempting to delay the work until tomorrow. But each time you give in to that temptation, you teach yourself that commitment is negotiable. And every time you push through it, you teach yourself that you can be trusted to follow through on what you said you would do. When you look at people who have achieved mastery in any area, you will find that their success was not the result of occasional heroic efforts, but of an almost unshakable consistency in their practice. Athletes who reach the highest levels are not simply more talented than everyone else. They are often the ones who stuck to their training schedules when it was raining, when they were tired, when progress felt invisible. Writers who produce influential books are not always the most naturally gifted with words, but they are the ones who kept writing day after day through the uninspired drafts, through the chapters that didn't quite work, until the work finally reached excellence. Consistency is the great equalizer, because it allows persistence to outrun raw talent over time. One of the most dangerous myths about consistency is that it requires perfection. It doesn't. What it requires is commitment. You don't have to execute your routine flawlessly every single day. You just have to return to it every time you stray. Life will inevitably throw interruptions your way: illness, emergencies, unexpected responsibilities. Missing a day is not failure. Quitting after you miss a day is. The strength of consistency lies in its ability to be resumed even after a setback. When you can recover quickly from breaks in your momentum, you turn potential failures into brief pauses rather than permanent stops. The challenge with maintaining consistency is that its benefits are often delayed. Our brains are wired to crave immediate rewards, which is why sticking to a process without seeing instant results can feel discouraging. This is where faith in the compound effect becomes crucial. Just as water can carve valleys through rock over time, small, repeated actions accumulate to create massive shifts in your life. Skipping one workout doesn't ruin your health, just as going to the gym once doesn't transform your body. But repeating those actions over hundreds of days builds a force that is impossible to ignore. The results of consistency often arrive suddenly, as if all the invisible progress busts into visibility at once. The real work of building consistency begins with designing systems that make it easier to follow through. Relying purely on willpower is a fragile CG, because willpower is a fluctuating resource. Successful people create environments, routines, and habits that reduce the friction of taking action. They set up their mornings so the first thing they do is aligned with their priorities. They prepare in advance so there are fewer decisions to make in the moment. They remove temptations that would otherwise compete for their attention. By lowering the activation energy required to start, they make it more likely that they will keep going. Consistency also demands that you choose what to be consistent about. You cannot do everything every day, not well anyway. This means you must prioritize, deciding which habits and actions will yield the greatest long-term impact, and committing to those first. Spreading yourself too thin creates a pattern of starting and stopping that erodes both progress and confidence. The key is to focus on a small number of high-value actions and execute them relentlessly. Once those are established, you can layer in additional habits without overwhelming yourself. Another barrier to consistency is complicate the process. Many people fail to stay consistent because they set standards so high that the effort feels unsustainable. They aim to run 10 miles a day instead of starting with 2. They try to completely overhaul their diet overnight instead of making one manageable change at a time. When the standard is unreasonably high, missing it feels inevitable, and the shame of missing it often leads to abandoning the effort altogether. Consistency thrives when you make the daily actions so achievable that they're almost impossible to skip. Over time, these small, manageable actions build into something extraordinary. There is also a psychological benefit, often overlooked. It builds identity. Every time you repeat an action, you reinforce a story about who you are. When you consistently study, you begin to see yourself as a disciplined learner. When you consistently exercise, you begin to see yourself as an active, healthy person. This shift in identity is powerful because behavior flows from identity. When you believe, "I am the kind of person who does this," your actions begin to align naturally. It becomes less about forcing yourself to do something and more about living in harmony with who you are. This is why it's dangerous to identify as someone who can't stick with things or isn't consistent. Those labels become self-fulfilling. If you want to change your actions, you must also change the story you tell yourself about what kind of person you are. The easiest way to do that is to start acting like the person you want to become, even in small ways, and let consistency solidify that identity over time. Of course, there will be times when consistency feels boring. Repetition can be unglamorous. The novelty fades, the excitement wears off, and you are left with the simple, unvarnished reality of doing the same thing again and again. This is where many people lose their way. They mistake the absence of excitement for the absence of progress. In truth, boredom is often a sign that you are entering the phase where real growth happens. It is in this quiet, unremarkable stretch that you build the kind of deep skill, strength, and resilience that cannot be faked. Learning to embrace the boredom of consistency is one of the most valuable mental skills you can. There's another reason consistency is so powerful. It compounds not just results, but confidence. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you send a signal to yourself that you can be relied upon. You become your own source of trust. And when you trust yourself, you stop hesitating. You stop second-guessing your ability to execute. You approach challenges with the calm assurance that you can handle them, not because you expect them to be easy, but because you have proof, in the form of your own history, that you will show up. Regard history, when broken down to its essence, is often the cumulative effect of thousands of unremarkable days. The daily grind is not glamorous, but it is necessary. It's the 5 a.m. training sessions no one sees, the quiet hours spent reading and thinking, the consistent follow-ups with clients, the daily writing habit that produces pages which may never see the light of day. All of these are invisible to the outside world until one day the visible success appears and people call it overnight. They see the moment of arrival, but not the years of consistent effort that made it possible. The most liberating truth about consistency is that it puts the power in your hands. You don't have to wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect timing, or the perfect mood. You don't need to be the smartest, fastest, or most connected. If you can be the one who keeps showing up, through the highs, through the lows, through the silence and the noise, you will eventually outlast and outperform those who are more talented, but less committed. The playing field may never be perfectly fair, but consistency is one of the closest things we have to an equalizer. The people who seem unstoppable are not necessarily the ones with the greatest gifts, but the ones who have mastered the art of showing up for themselves over and over again, until the habit becomes a second nature, until success is no longer a question of if, but of when. And as you carry this truth forward, You realize that every day you choose consistency, you are casting a vote for the future you want, and the more votes you cast, the more inevitable that future becomes. There comes a moment in every pursuit when you stand at the threshold of your own potential, and the next step you take determines whether you settle into comfort or step into the unknown. This moment is not announced with fanfare. There is no flashing sign that tells you, this is the turning point. It often arrives quietly, disguised as a decision you could easily put off, but those small, pivotal moments, when you decide whether to move forward or retreat, are the crucibles in which your future is forged. The courage to choose growth over comfort is what separates those who achieve extraordinary things from those who wonder what might have been. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of it. Many people wait until they feel ready before they take a leap, but readiness is an illusion. If you are waiting for fear to disappear before you start, you will wait forever. Every great achievement in history was born from someone stepping into uncertainty without any guarantee of success. The people who change their lives and the lives of others are those who are willing to take imperfect action, to risk being seen trying, and to accept that mistakes are not proof of inadequacy, but proof of effort. The reason courage matters so deeply is because it is the key that unlocks opportunities you cannot access from the safety of your comfort zone. Comfort has a way of disguising itself as contentment, but beneath it often lies stagnation. You may tell yourself you are satisfied where you are, but if a quiet restlessness keeps tugging at you, it is a signal that your potential is calling. And potential, by its very nature, cannot be fulfilled without movement. The moment you decide to move, fear will attempt to bargain with you. It will present you with every reason to weigh, every possible way you might fail, every scenario in which you could be embarrassed. But the thing fear rarely tells you is that the discomfort of action is temporary, while the regret of inaction can last a lifetime. Taking bold steps does not mean recklessly charging into every opportunity without preparation. It means understanding that preparation and action must work together. Preparation gives you a foundation, action gives you momentum. Too much preparation without action becomes procrastination disguised as diligence. Too much action without preparation becomes chaos. The sweet spot is where you prepare enough to move forward with intention, but not so much that you paralyze yourself with overthinking. Fear often feels like a stop sign, but it can also be a compass. The things you fear most, the goals that seem too big, the conversations you avoid, the risks you hesitate to take, often point toward the areas where the most growth awaits you. If you can learn to interpret fear as a signal that you are on the edge of something significant, you can reframe it from a barrier into a guide. This does not make the fear vanish, but it changes your relationship with it. Instead of waiting for courage to appear, you learn to move with fear in your hand, letting it walk beside you, instead of keeping you chained to the starting line. One of the greatest misconceptions about those who achieve remarkable things is that they are somehow inherently fearless. In reality, most of them feel fear just as strongly as anyone else. The difference is that they have trained themselves to move forward anyway. They have learned that action in the presence of fear often diminishes fear itself. Each time you act despite fear, you teach yourself that you can survive discomfort, that you can adapt, that you are more capable than you previously believed. Over time, your threshold for discomfort expands, and situations that once felt impossible become manageable. The people who consistently push past fear are not reckless thrill seekers. They are often deliberate risk takers. They understand that every significant change in life carries uncertainty, but they also recognize that the cost of standing still is often far greater than the cost of moving forward. Growth demands a trade. You must be willing to give up the security of the familiar in exchange for the possibility of something greater. The familiar feels safe because it is known, but safe does not always mean right. Many remain trapped in situations, jobs, relationships, habits, not because they are fulfilling, but because they are predictable. Breaking free requires the audacity to believe that what lies ahead could be better than what you are leaving behind. This is where vision becomes essential. Courage is sustained not just by willpower, but by a clear understanding of why you are moving forward in the first place. When your vision is vivid, when you can picture, in detail, the life you are striving toward, the discomfort of change becomes easier to bear. Vision transforms courage from a single moment of bravery into a sustained commitment. It turns your bold steps into a purposeful journey, not just a series of random leaps. But vision alone is not enough. It must be paired with resilience. The path of courage is not a straight line. There will be setbacks, rejections, failures, and moments when you question whether the risk was worth it. These moments are not signs that you chose the wrong path. They are inevitable parts of the process. Resilience allows you to face them without losing your momentum. It is the skill of standing back up, adjusting your approach, and continuing forward even when progress feels invisible. Courage gets you started, resilience keeps you going. Sometimes, the boldest step is not the grand gesture but the quiet, persistent refusal to give up when it would be easier to stop. It is showing up for the difficult conversation instead of avoiding it. It is applying for the opportunity you feel underqualified for. It is telling the truth when a lie would be safer. It is making the call, sending the email, walking into the room, and doing it again tomorrow if nothing happens today. This quiet kind of courage often has the greatest impact because it builds trust in yourself and shows others that you mean what you say. There is also a collective dimension to courage. Your bold actions can inspire others to take their own. When people see you stepping forward, they are reminded that they too can do the same. Courage is contagious. One person's willingness to take a risk can ripple outward, creating a chain reaction of bravery in a community, a workplace, a family. This means your courage is not just for you. It is for everyone who will be moved by your example. When you act with courage, you become a permission slip for others to do the same. The truth is, there will never be a perfect time to act. Life does not pause to give you a risk-free window. The conditions will always be slightly inconvenient, the timing slightly off, the resources slightly insufficient. If you are waiting for the ideal circumstances, you are waiting for something that does not exist. The right time is the moment you decide to stop waiting. The step you take today, even if it is small, carries more power than the perfect step you plan to take someday. Stepping into the unknown will not guarantee success, but it will guarantee growth. Even if the outcome is not what you hoped for, the act of moving forward will expand your skills, deepen your resilience, and strengthen your ability to adapt. And each time you do it, the next bold step will feel a little less daunting. Over time, you will build not only a life filled with achievements, but also a life defined by the knowledge that you lived fully, that you did not let fear dictate your boundaries. Every bold step you take is a vote for the life you want to live. It is an investment in a future you cannot fully see yet, but that becomes more real with each action. The steps may be uncertain, the path may twist, but the decision to keep moving forward will, over time, lead you to places you could not have imagined from where you started. And as you stand in those future moments, looking back, you will see that every act of courage, no matter how small it seemed at the time, was a building block in the foundation of your most extraordinary life. There is a truth about time that most people only come to realize when it is too late. It is not something we own, It is something we are borrowing. Every day is a loan we are given, and the interest is paid in the form of choices. The way you spend your hours is the way you spend your life. And when you look back years from now, the sum of those hours will be the life you built. That is why the question of how you use your time is not just a matter of productivity. It is a matter of destiny. What you do with your time shapes who you become, the opportunities you encounter, and the legacy you leave behind. The difficult part is that the world is full of distractions. Not just the obvious ones like entertainment and social media, but also the subtle ones, obligations that aren't truly yours, tasks that feel urgent but aren't important, habits that feel comfortable but keep you stagnant. If you are not deliberate about your choices, the days will slip by consumed by things that do not move you forward. Time has a way of filling itself with whatever you allow into it. And if you do not set the terms, the world will set them for you. The people who achieve the most with their lives are not necessarily the ones who have the most talent, resources, or luck. They are the ones who have mastered the art of directing their attention toward what matters most. They understand that saying yes to the wrong things is the same as saying no to the right ones. Every commitment you make is a piece of your life you are giving away. Every hour you spend is a seed planted. The question is, will that seed grow into something that nourishes your future, or will it wither into regret? It is easy to undervalue the value of a single hour. 1 hour seems small, almost insignificant, in the context of a day. But hours are the building blocks of your life, and what you do with each one compounds over time. If you dedicate 1 hour a day to developing a skill, that is over 360 hours a year. Enough to transform you from a beginner to a competent practitioner, and eventually to an expert. If you waste 1 hour a day on something meaningless, that is also over 360 hours a year. Enough to have built something incredible but instead spent on nothing you can hold on to. Time compounds like money, and the interest can work for you or against you. This is why clarity of priorities is essential. Without a clear sense of what matters most to you, your time will inevitably be spent on what matters most to someone else. The world will pull at your attention, and every pull will feel urgent. But urgency is not the same as importance. Urgency is loud and demanding. Importance is often quiet, requiring you to protect it. If you allow urgency to rule your schedule, you will constantly feel busy, but never truly make progress. The key is to reverse that, to let importance guide your actions, and allow urgency to fall into place where it belongs. Mastering time is not It is about doing the right things with focus and consistency. Productivity is not a measure of how many tasks you complete, but of how much of your energy is devoted to the tasks that matter most. It is possible to be incredibly busy and yet accomplish very little. It is also possible to do far fewer things and achieve extraordinary results if those things are aligned with your goals. This requires the discipline to say no to distractions, even when they are tempting, and to focus your energy on the activities that bring you closer to your vision. One of the greatest barriers to using time wisely is the illusion of later. We tell ourselves we will start tomorrow, next week, next year, when conditions are better or when we feel more prepared. But later is a moving target. It keeps shifting into the future, always just out of reach. The truth is, the perfect moment never comes. There will always be reasons to wait, and there will always be challenges to face. The only time you can act is now, and the choices you make now set the direction for everything that follows. If you want a better future, the work begins in the present. When you start to treat time as your most valuable resource, you begin to make different decisions. You become more selective about who you spend it with, what you commit it to, and how you allow others to influence it. You stop giving it away to things that drain you and start investing it in things that build you. You recognize that every yes is also a no. When you say yes to one thing, you are saying no to something else. This awareness forces you to evaluate whether the thing you are saying yes to is worth the no you are saying to everything else. It is also important to remember that time well spent is not just about work or achievement. It is about balance. Success is hollow if it comes at the expense of your health, relationships, or peace of mind. Wise use of time means making room for rest, for connection, for joy. It means understanding that the quality of your life is not measured only by what you accomplish, but also by how you live while you are accomplishing it. The most successful people are not those who have no free time. They are those who have the freedom to choose how they spend their time and the wisdom to choose well. To gain this kind of mastery over your time, you must learn the difference between being reactive and being proactive. A reactive life is one in which your time is dictated by other people's needs, demands, and emergencies. You are constantly responding, but rarely initiating. A proactive life is one in which you set the terms. You decide what matters most. You plan your days around those priorities, and you allow other things to fit around them. This shift requires intention. It requires you to design your days rather than drift through them. And it requires the courage to protect your time fiercely, even when others do not understand. Many people are afraid to protect their time because they worry about disappointing others. They say yes to things they do not want to do. They keep commitments they no longer believe in, and they allow their schedules to be filled with obligations that do not align with their goals. But every time you say yes out of fear of disappointing someone, you are saying no to yourself. You are giving away your most precious resource to something that does not serve your future. Respecting your own time is not selfish, it is essential. If you do not respect your time, no one else will. There is a quiet power in routines and habits when it comes to using time wisely. Habits automate your actions, freeing your mental energy for higher decisions. The more you can turn your important activities to consistent habits, the less you have to rely on willpower to get them done. Whether it is exercising, reading, planning your day, or working on a personal project, building these into your daily life makes them non-negotiable. Over time, these small, repeated actions create massive results, not because they were done once with great intensity, but because they were done consistently over years. Another crucial part of wise time use is reflection. It is easy to get caught up in the momentum of doing without stopping to ask whether what you are doing is actually working. Reflection allows you to evaluate your actions, learn from your experiences, and adjust your approach. This could be as simple as taking 10 minutes at the end of each day to review what went well, what could have been better, and what you will do differently tomorrow. Without reflection, you risk spending years moving quickly in the wrong direction. With reflection, you ensure that your actions remain aligned with your goals. In the end, time is the great equalizer. No matter who you are, you have the same 24 hours in a day as everyone else. The difference lies in how you use them. Some will spend those hours building, creating, learning, and growing, while others will spend them drifting, reacting, and consuming. Over months and years, these choices compound into vastly different lives. One is filled with accomplishments, experiences, and fulfillment. The other with regret over opportunities missed. The choice between them is made not in a single dramatic moment, but in the quiet, daily decisions about how you spend your time. Every moment you have is a chance to choose differently. You are not locked into your past patterns. You can decide today to take control of your time, to align your actions with your values, and to invest in the future you want to create. The life you dream of is not built in some distant future. It is built in the minutes and hours you have right now. And if you choose to spend those minutes and hours wisely, you will not just find success. You will create a life that feels deeply worth living.